Welcome, everyone. My name is Sally Howell, and I'm the director of the Center for Arab American Studies at the University of Michigan Dearborn. I'm also one of the curators for the Halal Metropolis project. Halal Metropolis is a traveling exhibit that explores Muslim visibility in the sectors of politics, arts, history, and even popular culture, from comic books to athletic brands. Thank you for joining us today for this virtual gallery talk. Given the ongoing and uncertain nature of the pandemic, we've decided to reformat the gallery talks we had scheduled for our Dearborn show. Today, we will be speaking to several food innovators from the Dearborn Greater Detroit scene. Our panelists today are Zane Mackey, who's the executive chef from Brome Eatery. And we'll be talking to all these people about both the innovations they've done in the past and the innovations they have planned for the future. Ali Husseiki, who's one of the owners and chief architects of King's Bakery in Dearborn, and also Mirna Hamadi, who is one of the owners and also one of the managers of AlType Restaurant. So these are just really excellent. Each of them is innovating the halal food scene in a very different way. So I want to thank you all for joining us. Those of you who are joining us live, either on Zoom or Facebook, please drop any questions you have in the Q&A box or the Facebook comments section, and we will make sure we get to them during the talk. For those of you who are joining us on Zoom, I want to bring your attention to the live transcript button on the Zoom screen. Please click it to see closed captioning for this talk. And finally, I also want to thank our sponsors, the Knight Foundation, the Doris Duke Foundation, the Community Foundation of Southeast Michigan, the Michigan Council for the Humanities, and of course, the Center for Arab American Studies at the University of Michigan Dearborn. So I want to welcome the three of you. How are you doing?
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Good. Well, it's good to see you. I know it's been a long year for people in the food business, that's for sure. So maybe we should start off by giving you a chance to introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about the work that you do, about the businesses that you're associated with, and how you got started. So I think I'm going to go in alphabetical order here. So Mirna, that brings you up first.
Okay. So thank you for having me on behalf of AlType Restaurant. So we started as it was just an idea, and we did not think that it's gonna, grow so fast. We weren't expecting people to like it, but moving to Michigan, we always had trying to think where we're gonna have breakfast on Sunday, and we will always wanted a meal where the whole family is gonna sit and enjoy everything. So we always ended up either cooking at home or just grabbing some manaish, and that was about it. And then just the idea came up that those traditional kind of food that we all grew up to eat in our grandma's house, where everything is so, it's like these are the family kind of meals that we enjoyed back home. So it just started as that idea, and here we are, like 4 years later. We have 2 branches now, and we know that people are liking our food, and that's like our story in short.
Okay, well, that's great. Yeah, well, I mean, you're on this show because all the members of the Halal Metropolis team like your food. That's for certain.
Thank you. Oh, that's an honor. Thank you so much.
We're big fans. So Ali, you're next. Tell me about King's Bakery.
Well, we popped into the scene back in 2013. We were probably one of the newer bakeries that opened up because we had, staples in our community like Golden Bakery, Yasmin Bakery that have been here, when I was a little kid, they were around. So those are the traditional places to go to. So we went on a little venture. My father always wanted to open up a bakery in a certain location, and he knew that my brother and I were always intrigued in food. So we opened up, ran it just like any typical bakery, and our innovative minds just took off. We started experimenting. You know, we always used to make food at home and experiment with the breads. We used to go get mena-ish from other bakeries and experiment with their breads, you know. Uh, and then one day, my brother and I were just talking about it, and I actually wasn't at work. My brother was, and he started making these sandwiches. And we just started testing them out with the family, with friends, customers here and there. And we launched it on Instagram, on social media, and it was a hit. Now, when we first opened, though, we kind of wanted to do a little different. The manwich came into play afterwards. When we first started, it was more about the flatbreads. How can we change the flatbread up, the manusha itself? You know, your typical cheese bread, your za'atar bread, meat with cheese, sujuk, kafta. You had all those breads, but there wasn't anything too unique about them. They were kind of boring, you know, and you get sick of eating the same thing over and over when you go to an establishment. So what we started doing is making like egg and cheese breads. So we'd grab a meat, instead of putting just cheese on it, we'd put egg and cheese on it. And again, that just started waking people up. We grabbed some cheese breads and we started putting honey on it. So now you got this sweet and salty taste, and you know, and people were intrigued. And that's really what set us apart from the big dogs in the community, if you want to, you know, if you want to call it that. And from there, again, like I said, our mind started wandering, and then we came up with the manner in which we trademarked it, and people just flocked. And here we are.
Well, I've not had your honey and cheese bread, but I've had your menowich. So again, we're all big fans. I'll have to try the honey one. So how about you, Zane? Tell us about Brome and all the other restaurants you guys have.
Yeah, so we started with Brome Eatery in 2015. The main vision behind Brome was, you know, obviously was to be a really good scratch cooking restaurant that had a wide variety of burgers, and we wanted to expand on that vision. And rather than be just, you know, another burger shop in the city, we wanted to do more health conscious options, and we incorporated house-made salads and, you know, house-made custards as well. And the salads actually took off really well for us. It kind of went hand in hand with our burgers. And, you know, usually you don't eat a salad with a burger, but we found people would come in on certain days, they just have a salad and a shake, and sometimes they'll come in and have a burger or have both, you know. So we kind of wanted to capitalize on it a little bit, and went into the balance side of things. So that was our juice bar that we wanted to do. And you know, we got to offer new different types of smoothies and juices that had superfoods involved in them, which kind of like grew on that health conscious aspect. And, you know, people love that as well. And, you know, now we have people coming in, rather than your typical person once a week doing a burger, you know, they could come in multiple times. They'll enjoy a salad and a shake one day, or they could do a salad and a health smoothie. So, you know, we kind of wanted to expand on that and make it more of a modern eater rather than just a burger place, and just, you know, come up with creative ideas with specials and stuff and go outside the box. Recently, we've done flatbread pizzas, which have been doing really well for us as well. It's kind of helped with our carryouts and, you know, what's been going on with COVID. So it's easy to package, you know, send out. And we're doing like Brome at home as well, which is like raw items that people could prepare at home and, you know, make it a little bit more fresher for them as well, rather than just taking a pre-cooked meal. So yeah, that was Brome. And then the next concept that we're working on is called the Great Commoner, and hopefully we'll be ready to launch that this spring. And it's kind of like a multifaceted restaurant we're doing. We'll have like a patisserie in there, a coffee shop, or I'm sorry, not a coffee shop, an actual coffee bar. We'll do breads. We'll have a grab and go section as well for people that are on the go. Just, you know, health conscious options as well that people could eat without heating up. And it's the restaurant's mainly going to be focused on brunch, but we'll have a light lunch and dinner option as well for that.
Well, this is a good segue for me because I mean, so I actually went on a big diet a few years ago, and I lost 70 pounds, and I did that by giving up bread. So no offense, Ali. I had to give up all the carbs. It was very hard to eat Arabic food, hard to work in Dearborn. But I did it by, you know, if people wanted to go out for lunch with me, I went to Brome and got one of those salads, which I really just appreciated and loved. And then when I got off the diet, I enjoyed the burgers. And of course, with COVID, I put it all back on, or almost all of it. So I've been able to enjoy some of those menuishes. But I'm just so it's interesting that we've got these three very different kinds of restaurants, or three different kinds of food entrepreneurs on this program. And I think it's because we recognize that each of you has really, I mean, you're not giving yourselves enough credit for the innovation you've done. So I'm going to go back. So I'm going to sort of segue from what you just said, Zane, to how Mirna started us off. You know, because you ended with this idea that there needs to be more breakfast or more brunch options in Dearborn. And I absolutely know that's true. I have a lot of friends who are, you know, who maybe lived in Dearborn when they were younger, grew up in Dearborn, but they've moved out to the suburbs, and they come back to Dearborn on the weekends to do their shopping, you know, and they really want that brunch option. And there hasn't been a lot of opportunity for them. And so, so I think, Mirna, you're really the first restaurant that's jumped into this space. I know that you initially weren't in Dearborn. And the thing is your innovation is to just like double down on the traditional, you know. I mean, you don't just have one version of feta, or, you know, you don't just have hummus and eggs. You've got, you know, you've got so many dishes. And I've seen, I remember when I first learned about your restaurant, I just posted something. I was like, oh, look at this place. You know, I posted something on Facebook, and then all these people were just like shaming me because I hadn't been there yet, you know, and they were like, this is better than my mom's, you know, this is, you know, that's how people kept talking about it. So, so just tell me a little bit more about that. You know, the energy that has gone into the detail of your menu, the number of dishes that you have with hummus in them.
Oh yeah,
half the menu or more. You know, this is like for real purists.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, the chef has almost like 20 years of experience, my husband. So he did not like just come in and introduce one dish and that's it. No, what he's trying to bring back is like the full menu. Because if you go to Lebanon and you go to a similar kind of a breakfast restaurant, you will find almost the same items you see in our restaurant. So it's not like we're bringing in something that new. It could be new to the market here, but it's not like everything we serve is like people know it, they have tasted it, they're happy that they're gonna have it again, because I'm up trying all these different.
So you're breaking up quite a bit. And we're having a hard time hearing you, but I think what you're saying is that you're playing on nostalgia, the nostalgia of the immigrants.
It's very risky, because I mean,
we're still not,
food. You can't hear me.
We're still not getting you.
I'll try to log in from my phone. Probably that should be better.
So Ali, let's go back to you, because obviously bakeries are big breakfast businesses, and I know that I have been to your place so many times. Like, I don't know what hour I get there, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're closed. And it breaks my heart that you're not open longer in the day. But you also are like, you know, so I know that you the thing that sort of put you on the map in terms of your visibility with the public was the manawish, you know, or I don't know exactly how you say it. That's how I pronounce it. Which is not really a breakfast food. It's more of a lunch food. But you really got into this market. But I mean, I used to live in Dearborn, and the best thing about being in Dearborn, it was so easy to be a host for breakfast, because there are all these you know, there are so many bakeries, the ones you mentioned specifically. But tell me a little bit more about, like, I mean, I think of the breakfast market as being a hard one. It's a hard market to innovate in.
Well, first off, I apologize that you keep coming and we are closed. We are a breakfast joint, but that was our overall goal with creating the menu, which is that you wanted to also draw the crowd that comes after school or later in the evening after work, the 5, 6 o'clock, because before the pandemic, we were open from 6 a.m. until 6 p.m. But
Okay.
since Corona, we've only been opening up from 9 a.m. till 3 p.m. And then like on the weekends, we close at 1:30. Uh, and that was the thing. When we first started, we were just focused on the lunch aspect of the establishment and the breakfast. The breakfast automatically came. You know, you're open up at 6 a.m. You were getting the rushes before school, after school, or on the way to work. But we wanted to draw people in for lunch and for, you know, not really dinner, but we kind of implemented that because a lot of people come, they were used to come pick it up at 6 o'clock for the whole family, and they started eating sandwiches for dinner. And we never expected that. Uh, you know, a lot of people are all there. You can go to many places and get uh, your typical sandwiches on pita bread. You can go to many restaurants and get burgers, and many bakeries and get mena-ish, but you didn't really find that sandwich anywhere. It was just very unique. So a lot of people seen it as another option for them to eat later on in the afternoon or before dinner or maybe for dinner itself. And then again, we implemented the pizzas, and uh, honestly, we didn't have that hard of a time implementing that on our menu at all, because again, people were really intrigued. They were kind of drawn back from it in the beginning, but that's more of your traditional, uh, you know, they were so used to something, especially the old timers. The old timers came in and they tell us, "What are you doing with our food? It's not the way our food is supposed to be made." But in reality, that food always existed. But we just gave it a name, and then once we gave it a name, it blew up even more, and we just started coming up with new creations, and we kind of diversified the sandwich. You know, we started making chicken bacon ranches. That's not there's nothing Mediterranean about a chicken bacon ranch. So that's how it just started slowly but surely. It became a staple item that people would want for breakfast, for lunch, and possibly for dinner. So
For dinner. I've brought some home to Ann Arbor for dinner, that's for sure. Well, so Zane, I mean, your place is very different from these other places, the two places we're talking about, in that your place is a hamburger, salad, pizza place. Everything about it signals that it's something different, that it, for Dearborn in particular, it's something new. You've got that gorgeous green wall, you got a big open space, the way people order and, you know, sit, and then you bring the food to the table for them, the water pitchers with the fruit in them. I mean, you're in the summer, you've got that patio area. It's a very different feel. And I will tell you that I have friends from all over the metro area who love burgers, but they want the halal burger, right?
Yes.
So they know that your place is halal. So I'd like for you to talk about that, how you're not a traditional Arabic restaurant like the other two are, like providing Arabic food, right? You know, like with a real Lebanese emphasis. You're doing something different. Tell me what inspired you to do that, or how you see what you do, how you connect what you do to the other food innovators in Dearborn.
Right. Okay. So I believe for the most part, when we put the business plan together, we wanted to have, you know, a very professional impression across the board in the restaurant industry. And it all starts obviously with the food, but it kind of goes outside towards, you know, the service quality and our branding and, you know, just the image that we put out there as a business. And we kind of saw that through the first couple of years. People would come to us, different types of investors or people who were interested, and, you know, they'd ask us, is this a nationwide franchise? And they kind of like, they didn't really push it towards your typical mom and pop shop that would open up, you know, in just a normal city. But it kind of spoke volumes to us, knowing that, you know, putting something together that, you know, you bring on a lot of people that have the expertise in that area and they focus on it really well. And we really did, as a team, a really good job of putting it together as a whole. And you know, the halal part of it kind of like bolstered that up for us, because it's a good impression for us in the city. and it could kind of like, you know, expand throughout, you know, Southwest Detroit and hopefully in all over Michigan and stuff.
Yeah, and you've got the halal, and you've also got the organic meat side of it too. So you're like really getting the healthy options, you
Yeah.
know, which brings us back to AlType, which means healthy, you know, positive, good, happy, you know. So all of you, I feel like you're drawing on like traditional cuisine, traditional Lebanese cuisine, traditional American cuisine, but you're also hybridizing it in different ways. And I want to hear you. I want to hear you talk about the ways in which you think that being in Dearborn specifically gives you the freedom to you know, either like you're doing, Mirna, really, you know, investing in the traditional, or like what you're doing, Ali, and just saying, okay, we're going to blow up the traditional. There are other bakeries in town, you know, we don't need another one that does exactly what they do. We want to do something different. So tell me about how being in Dearborn, being a part of this really big, what our project calls the Halal Metropolis, right? This big metropolitan community of Arabs, of Muslims, of non-Muslims, of people who like Arabic food. How are you hybridizing what you're doing? And I also want, so Zane has talked about his new restaurant, his new venture, The Great Commoner, that's going to be opening soon. But I know that Mirna, you guys have just opened in Dearborn, so I kind of want to hear you talk a little bit about your new store in Dearborn and how it differs from your original place in Garden City. And then Ali, I know that you've got this whole new line of products that you're putting on the market right now too. So I want to hear about all of these things. So Mirna, I'll start with you.
Okay, so we opened a second location in Dearborn. It's quite bigger than the first one, and the chef is there all the time, although the same food is served in both locations. But we have more options in the Dearborn location. So again, like the menu is bigger. We keep adding more and more items that are that are known for Lebanese people, but maybe not really served here in Dearborn. But like everyone is welcoming it.
Could
Can
you
you
give
hear
me an
me?
example of one of those?
Okay, so like the traditional ones is the sujo, the ma'ani, and these come with eggs. The fette, which is the basic one that comes with yogurt. Then we started adding ground beef, and now we add beef chunk for the people who don't like the ground beef. And then we went in and added the fette with tahini. And again, it comes with the ground beef and the beef chunks. So more and more, but then we went beyond the traditional kind of plates. So now we have a few that we play around with. One of them is the cheese makdous. So makdous is very well known kind of eggplant, kind of, you know, like with the nuts and the, you know,
Garlic.
these are like the pickled eggplant. So now we serve it.
Eggplant. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So now we try to make it a little bit modern. So we serve this kind of stuffing on top of feta cheese. So like this is kind of a new new plate that you won't find it anywhere else. So we keep trying to try, you know, we're trying to offer traditional and in the right way, and serve it in the right way. So we don't, because we don't want the people who really miss the food of their grandmothers or their mothers if they moved here, and then try to play around with that kind of food and then, you know, destroy the memory for them or destroy the, you know, the experience for them. We still want them to come in and enjoy it and feel like, you know, this is a good meal that we always enjoyed back home. But at the same time, we're still trying to play around with a little bit. So trying to make some kind of options a little bit more modern for people who have the courage to try something new. It's just like, you know,
Yeah, I think
Ali's Manaish, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I think one of the things I want to encourage you to do, although, I mean, you don't need my encouragement in any direction, but you could have like a Jordanian feta, an Assyrian feta, and a Lebanese feta. You know what I mean? You could like make them for the broader Arab community. An Iraqi feta. You know, what would that be? What would the difference be between an Iraqi feta and a Lebanese one?
Yeah, but Yeah, maybe we need to look at that, but like we have people come in from different kinds, like from different countries. Like we have the Syrians come in, the Lebanese and the Syrian fatty, and the main food is very similar, like it's very close. But we have other people come in and enjoy it, and maybe because theirs is different, but they still like the way it is served. Because I mean, when you serve very fresh food and very basic, you're not like literally playing around and adding a lot of stuff, and it's very basic, very fresh. Everything is homemade. I mean, everyone is gonna like it. I mean, like most of the people are gonna like it. It's not like something that is so has a lot of hidden flavors and stuff that people might not have the courage to try. You know what I mean?
No, I think you're exactly right. That it again, it's hitting nostalgia, and there's a
Yeah,
purity to it that is really refreshing, and it's not.
yeah.
There's no
It's
mayonnaise in your hummus, you know. A lot of the restaurants
oh,
put mayonnaise in the hummus now, you know.
no. Oh no, no, for sure. No way, no, no.
Well, so how about you, Ali? I mean, I feel like you're being experimental in a very different way. So you've already sort of explained your process of experimentation and trying to maybe meet a younger generation. I know that we did a gallery talk a few months ago with some of the historic businesses in Dearborn, some of the, you know, sort of the best known restaurants or food providers in town. And one thing that they sort of lamented was they kept saying that they felt like the audience in Dearborn punished them when they tried to be innovative. So I think Ali in particular, you can tell us that maybe there's a different model. And also, please tell us about your new line, your new product line.
Well, that was the biggest challenge that we had when we first started diversifying our food was, like I told you, the old traditional people, like our parents from the old country, just were not used to this. They're like, again, they were, not that they were against it, but they weren't too found by it until they tried it. Once they tried it, they realized like, okay, this is pretty good. Uh, just like what Mirna was saying with like the sujuk and eggs, is always can come to the bakery and grab a sujuk, get a sujuk with cheese, but nobody ever had sujuk egg and cheese. So like we created something like that. And today's generation, I mean, a lot of us are first generation over here. Some of us are second generation. And with the new digital world, the social media, the technical world, it's so much easier to kind of build a brand than what it was years ago. And it's so much easier to connect with a larger crowd of people from all ages. And having that opportunity made it kind of easier to reach out to people uh, and have them try something different and have people drive hour, 2 hours away just for a typical sandwich. You know, I didn't realize that people drove so far to try food, you know, until I got into the industry. Today's actually our 8-year anniversary. So today is the 8th year that we've been open. That was the most challenging thing. And also building a brand is always challenging. You have to always be on top of it. You have to stay consistent. You have to be a model brand. You don't just come into our establishment and speak to the owners or speak to the employees. You're actually communicating with the owners. So we're talking to our customers about our ideas, and they're giving us feedback. So right now we've created a line for our products, because like my son's gluten-free, and when we first opened up the bakery, my son wasn't. We didn't know that he had a gluten allergy. So we had to start looking around for different bakeries in order to be able to make my son mena-ish at home, at least. And we're just my wife and I. In the meantime, my brother Hassan, he's the head baker. So like we were already working on like making different types of rolls that you'll see around like at 7-Elevens. And I mean, I don't know if I want to say the name of the brand, but we wanted to make it available for the Halal population.
Mhm.
Because because, you can go get pepperoni rolls from anywhere, but none of them are halal, and it's not convenient at all. Only area you can get it is either make it at home or you go to the bakery and you get it. So we've got a line of baked products that are going to be available for convenience customers at the stores, or, at 7-Eleven, at a gas station, something on the go. But when the pandemic came around, we came up with frozen products, because that's what I used to buy for my son. He's gluten-free. That was the only thing I was able to do. And we used to freeze the dough. So my brother started experimenting and playing around with the dough. There's a science behind the dough. It's not really my thing. I'm more of the PR guy, the guy who's there to be my brother's backbone and help him out. And I just took some frozen dough home, some mini pies home, one Ramadan night during the pandemic, and it exploded. We had hundreds of people from out of state, from the community, wanting to make, how easy is it to just wake up at 3 a.m. before sunrise, pull dough out of that, or pull a pepperoni roll that's unbaked and frozen, you thaw it out and you pop it in the oven. It's just as fresh as it comes out. Same thing with the little mini spinach pies, the little mini meat pies. And people think that it's simple to do. So like, there's places that I went to try to sell my product to them, and they thought to themselves, like, okay, we can create this product too. There's big brand named stores in our community that also have bakeries inside of them. So like, I wanted to go put my line in their stores, and they started saying, well, you're going to start taking away from our aspect of the business. It's almost a completely different industry. I'm not coming after your restaurant, your bakery. We're going after moms who are at home, who can't go out and grab mana ish. They can easily pull dough out of that freezer and get it done. And anybody can make dough and freeze it, but it's not always going to be done right. So like, that was our biggest challenge, especially my brother. It's really my brother's biggest challenge was trial and error and figuring things out, because it's a completely different process between dough that's made on a daily basis at the bakery, and then the way you got to process dough and freeze it. And then we had to go through the FDA and get FDA approved. Alhamdulillah, we got through with that. So slowly but surely, we're building that brand. We're trying to really get to shipping nationwide frozen products.
So I don't see why you can't name the brand.
Not my brand. I'm talking about the brand. So there's
the companies that are hosting you. Yeah. Okay. So the brand will just be King's Bakery.
Well, the brand is just going to be King's Bakery.
Okay.
It's just going to be a distribution company from the bakery itself.
Yeah. Well, so
but no, what I was talking about earlier is that there was a company called Baffos. It's based out in Riverview, Michigan, and our father owns multiple gas stations. So I worked at one for a very long time while I was going to college, and they used to make. They're called baffle rolls. They make egg and cheese rolls, pepperoni rolls, spinach rolls, you name it. You open up the end of the package, you pop it in the microwave, and you eat it on the go. And when they first started their company was back in like 2001, and I was still in high school. I was like a sophomore in high school, and they just started rolling out this line. And at our gas station, they'd probably put like 20 items there, and by like year 5, year 6, they were selling like 200-300 rolls a week out of our establishment. So it was just something. Once we opened up the bakery, we thought about that, but more targeting the Halal population. You know what I'm saying? We wanted it available for the Halal population because there's nothing available like that.
No, I totally get it. And so this leads me to another question I have for all three of you. So, I mean, our project is really the point of our project is to think about the ways in which the Muslim community is really shaping the identity of the metro area. You know, so for us, it's like, what makes Muslims visible to other people? How is it that non-Arabs or non-Muslims interact with the Muslim community, right? And one of the most dynamic and common ways that people interact. I mean, obviously, if you work in a hospital, you've got Muslim coworkers and Muslim patients, and if you work in a, you know, if you buy gas in Detroit, you're basically buying it from a Muslim. But the really the most common way that people have of interacting with the Muslim community is through food. And it's through this halal food. It's through Arabic food or South Asian food, Bangladeshi food. A lot of the African American Muslims in Detroit are coming up with, you know, halal soul food places. We've got West African food enterprises. So it's like suddenly, well, it's not suddenly. I mean, historically in Dearborn, the thing that made, you know, that brought Arabs and non-Arabs together was always the restaurants. So I think that what you guys are doing, all of you, is you're increasing the visibility of the Muslim community, and you're also helping people think about the Muslim community as, you know, I was asking before about hybridization. I think that you're helping, you know, in a subtle way, and this isn't your purpose, right? Your purpose is to sell food, to do the thing you're passionate about, but you're helping people see, you know, how integrated the Muslim community is. And in particular, you're so integrated that you're a part of people's everyday lives and the diet and the food that they eat. So I don't know if this is like an academic kind of question, and or if any of you have something you want to say about it.
Yeah,
Like
I
maybe
can touch on
it's
something
your
real quick.
turn.
So I feel like a really important part of that is to be able to be, you know, current with the industry. So obviously the restaurant industry is brutal and it's consistently changing throughout the years. So every year there's something new going on, and you know, for you to be able to be current with the trends, or you know, moving with whatever obstacles that you have, for whether it's COVID or you know a new item that's coming through that people are, you know, really interested about and want to have. I feel like being able to captivate that and moving with the trends and wanting to change as well, rather than, you know, staying the same restaurant or doing the same stuff, being able to change. And Ali's done a great job with his brand as well, and doing the grab and or the frozen items, like stuff like that. I think will bring us out more and really make a better image for us and kind of put us out there more. You know what I mean?
Mirna, you want to get that? Or Ali, either one of you?
Oh,
Go ahead, Mirna.
no, I was just agreeing with what Zain was saying. I find also that not a lot of people understand what halal means. Like, if unless you have been a friend or know a Muslim friend, not most people, like not all people do understand the word halal, what it means. Like, I mean, is it a vegetarian food? Is it, what kind of meat can be halal? Like, I mean, I joke around because my kids always say, I only eat vegetarian halal, because that's what my kids say. I mean, like, because I mean, that's, they're trying to learn, right? But I mean, like, for people who are not who don't know what the halal means, sometimes it does not let the, like, give them an like, they don't want to try the food, or they don't understand what they're going to try. So I think the more of us getting exposed, the more people know about our food and come in and try it, the more they will feel comfortable. You know what I mean? Even if they're not Muslims, even if halal is not an option, I mean, like, it's not the option for them, but they still would come around and, you know, like, visit all these restaurants and start enjoying the food.
We have our food service on the U of M Dearborn campus. It's done by Picasso. And we have so many Muslim students on our campus, they always have halal options. And one of the things that one day I was standing in line getting a sandwich made at the counter where they make sandwiches, and this person in front of me wanted to make like a sandwich. I can't remember what it was, like a club sandwich or something like that. And he said he wanted the halal turkey, you know? So they put the halal turkey on the sandwich, and then he got bacon. And I was just like, what are you doing? But he thinks that the halal turkey has got to be a higher quality turkey because there's like a little premium that you pay for it. So he wants the high quality turkey, but he's not a Muslim, so he's still going to eat the bacon. It wasn't halal, it wasn't, you know, turkey bacon or halal bacon. It was, anyway, this tells me that there really is something happening here in terms of the mainstreaming of the idea of halal, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Ali,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
you wanted to say something, Ali?
I was just saying it's, I mean, Arabs had been coming to America since the early 1900s, but really in the mid 1900s, you know, in like 1950s, 1960s, and we've definitely assimilated pretty well and diversified our mind, the way we do things, not just in the food industry. And because of that, it's been much easier, at least for our generations, to connect with other cultures and kind of educate them about what we believe, or like what Mirna was saying about the word halal. Back when I was in high school, the word halal was very rare. It wasn't known. Uh, and now you see it all over the place. You see celebrities talk about it. It's on television. It's all over social media. So the times are changing. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know that when I came to Dearborn in the 1980s and I worked at Access, and at the time there was a summer youth program, and the kids in the summer youth program, most of whom lived in the South End, they would take them to Belle Isle, and in Dearborn they called it Balal. I didn't know what Balal was. It took me the longest time to realize that Balal was Belle Isle. But they would go, and the big controversy was always, would the kids get the hot dogs or not? Because some of the people would say, oh, well, they have halal hot dogs, and then other people were arguing about whether or not the hot dogs they had on Belle Isle were halal or not. Now I'm pretty sure if they have a hot dog stand on Belle Isle, if it's going to claim to have halal hot dogs, they're going to be halal hot dogs. You know what I mean? It's like back in the 80s, I think people just got away with some things that they don't get away with now. Well, we have a lot of questions here from the audience, and I mean,
are we able to see the questions?
I don't know if you can see the questions. There a lot of the questions are.
No, actually I did. I pressed the Q&A and it actually.
Yeah, so now you can see. So, I mean, a lot of the questions are things I feel like you've covered a little bit. So what are the challenges of going into the culinary field? I mean, you've talked about that. Ali, they want to know for you, what's the craziest manouche you tested? Zane, of you, they want to know, you know, like what makes the perfect burger? You know, they've got some really specific questions for you. But I think, so there are a couple of questions that I think are, you know, like maybe the most relevant for the biggest audience are, well, so one, I mean, we're heading into Ramadan, right? We're still in the COVID period. What are your plans for Ramadan? How are you going to handle Ramadan this year? We all hope that Ramadan this year is going to be very different from it was last year. But what are you thinking? What are the three of you thinking?
I'm mentally preparing myself for Ramadan because the bakery scene is crazy. Last year during the pandemic, we kept our doors closed and we only took phone orders and only took payments over the phone. We had pickup stations where you'd call, place an order, and then I tell you, all right, you're in station 1, bag number 1, for example, or, you know, it was all color coded, and we would not come in contact with anybody. Customers wouldn't get in contact with one another. And this year, we're not going to keep our dine-in. We haven't really opened up our dine-in. We haven't really felt comfortable with it. And the bakery businesses doesn't really rely on dine-in. It was just more for convenience for customers or like for Ford employees during lunch and whatnot. So we've remained closed dine-in wise. But this year during Ramadan, we are going to keep our doors open. So honestly, we're still trying to prepare for it and think about how we're going to run things, because you can have up to 80 people inside of the store. It's chaos. You know, people were going crazy last year because we couldn't keep up with the phone calls. I'd literally go into work at midnight. I'd go in at 11 o'clock just to mentally prepare myself and get everything situated while everybody was prepping. I didn't touch food at all during the month of Ramadan last year. This year, I'm actually going to be in the kitchen working. Last year, I literally sat on the phone and I'd be flashing for 4 hours straight, and I'd have 3 people on hold, and people would be pounding on the windows to come in, and it was just chaos. I'd be drained, and I wouldn't break a sweat at work or anything like that, but I'd be more tired than everybody. My brother would be running back and forth in the kitchen. You know, they're having a blast working, doing their thing. and I'm just dealing with customers yelling at me and getting upset. It's like, I'm sorry, guys, it's a pandemic. We can only do so much. So this year we're going to try to make it a little smoother.
Maybe hire some more staff.
Yeah,
But
especially for sure.
another thing that I noticed the restaurants were doing before COVID, I mean, so we had Sahur Fest in 2019, and then we noticed all the pop-ups in Dearborn where people would put tents in their, you know, they would go out onto the street instead of just having people come into them. And I wonder, that seems like a happy, you know, like a meeting people halfway. If you had a, you know, you wouldn't have to have 80 people inside, you could have 80 people outside, you know. I don't know. That's just maybe an idea.
You know what? We looked into it, and I'm very, very good friends with Hassan Shami, the founder of Ramadan Food Festival.
Mhm.
He's awesome. And I've told him it's so difficult. It's almost impossible to make our foods out there underneath the tent. Everything would be pre-baked. And one thing that we've always told ourselves is we have to stay consistent with our product. And honestly, we've gotten much, much busier because of that food festival. A lot of people go to that food festival. They like to try out different foods, socialize, hang out. And then on their way home, they stop at King's Bakery or stop at the other bakeries. And, you know, you get that late night crowd that's leaving the festival. And it gives you an opportunity to also meet customers that drove all the way from Chicago that have been following you on social media for years, or people that are visiting here from Florida or from California. So the Ramadan Food Festival has actually helped not just the people at the festival, it's actually drew a lot of people to the other establishments that aren't a part of the festival.
No, I
Hopefully in the future, we'll be in the food festival. We just have to come up with a game plan. It's not easy working with dough outside.
Yeah, and they're not going to be, I mean, he's already announced that they're not going to open this year. There's no way.
Not this year, right? But I'm sure he's going to get it back up and going.
Hopefully it'll come. So how about you, Zane? With burgers, you don't automatically associate burgers with Ramadan, and yet I was in your place, not last year, but in 2019, one night in the middle of the night or pretty late at night, and it seemed like you were hopping. So what are your plans for Ramadan?
So right now, we're not really committed to anything specific. We were part of the Halal Food Festival with, it was actually 2 years ago, not last year, because I think it was supposed last year.
2019, yeah.
They did a great job organizing. I mean, like Ali said, it was a huge turnout, and we got to meet a lot of new people. We could possibly do that again in the coming years as well. With right now, though, we do have the Common opening up really soon, and we're also working on Ann Arbor as well. So just a lot of moving pieces going on for us. We could definitely think of doing some type of specific menu, of course, food, and kind of do something outside on the patio and maybe limited seating inside. But with all the restrictions and stuff, it's just, there's a lot of obstacles for us to go over.
It is. I mean, I understand it's hard. So how about you, Mirna? I mean, your business is the one. It's like, you know, you're a breakfast place, but it's not a normal, I mean, it's not easy for you to do sahur. So what are your plans?
No, well, for us, again, like our food is usually, people usually eat it for sahur. Back in Lebanon, again, we haven't tested the market here. Although in Garden City, like our first location, we've tried 2 years in a row to open for sahur. It was not as busy as we were expecting. So last year, and with COVID and everything, we did not operate both locations, because even Dearborn, we operated for literally 5 weeks because it was still new, and then the pandemic hit and we had to close down. We had to do the, you know, so we closed down and we opened the first day of Eid, and it was like as if we did not close. Everyone came back, and it was literally, you know, it was very good. But for this year, we are planning for Dearborn at least to be open for sahur. We're going to be testing the market again. We don't know how it's going to turn out, but people sometimes are, you know, worried to try food and the hummus and everything because of the garlic in it, and they would think, oh, we're going to be thirsty all day next day. But what we usually do is we do cut down on the garlic a lot, and the chef has his own way of, you know, working around that, because even in Lebanon, when we had our restaurant over there, we were always operating for sahur, and we never had issues, and people always came back. So we're going to be serving our menu. We're not going to change anything, because I mean, you know, that's what we usually do. But
You'll change the hours.
Yeah, oh, definitely, yeah,
And you'll
definitely.
change the amount of garlic in the food. I want everybody to have heard that.
But also we have just started recently, like a couple weeks ago, we started serving the fresh juices and the fresh cocktail juices in Dearborn location. So that also for Ramadan is gonna be like something else for the people to come in and try. I mean, like they can come in right now, like before Ramadan, but that's another thing we're gonna be, focusing a little bit more on for the people for late at night.
No, I know this because I've driven around Dearborn late at night photographing houses for the Ramadan lights competition that we did last year. And my photographers, friends, partners were Muslim and they had been fasting all day. And, so uniformly we would stop for juice. That was one of the things we did in the middle of the night. So I'm pretty sure from my own personal experience that will be a popular thing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, so, so if you guys can see these questions, I don't know which ones you want to answer.
I just wanted to say something real quick off what you were asking, what you were saying. Like you told Zane, people don't typically think about a burger during suhoor, or Mirna's talking about garlic. I disagree. Today's day and age, they're eating anything and everything during suhoor. This younger generation, I mean, you see them, they're going to the food festival, they're eating hot dogs for suhoor, they're eating brisket, they're eating burgers. Don't lower the garlic in your food, Mirna. Keep doing your food. Don't change your recipes, because trust me, your food's good. They're going to eat it for suhoor no matter what.
Yeah,
They're coming in and they make they create the craziest sandwiches, and I tell myself, wow, they're going to be thirsty in the morning. Sure enough, they come the next day and they order the same thing. I'm like, okay.
We're gonna be testing. We'll see how it's gonna, how it's gonna go and how people are gonna like it.
Well, so Mirna, we have a question for you about what you see as being the differences between running a restaurant here and running one in Lebanon.
Wow, it's a big difference. The competition in Lebanon is way higher because I mean, like in every corner you will find a similar restaurant to what you're doing. So it's harder back home because you have to be really serving something so different, so fresh, and the taste has to be really, really delicious for you to be able to, stay in business. The difference here is we thought it was going to be hard to introduce our concept and for people to understand it and really accept it, because I mean, like if you go around the restaurants, like the Lebanese and the Middle Eastern restaurants here, they offer the same things we offer, but just for breakfast, and then they serve a different lunch and dinner menu, which we don't have. Like we're adding some more items to our menu, but we're still serving it for breakfast. Like and people are eating it for breakfast as well. So it's way harder back home. Here I see that if it's less of a competition, maybe for us, because I mean, like what we are serving, we don't have competition in that field. You know what I mean? But again, like in your country, if you're serving your own food, it's harder to, you have to always introduce new things for the people to try and always come back to you.
Well, I think this then leads us to the question we have here for Zane, because you're saying if you're serving food in your own country, then it's, you've got all the competition because everybody knows the food. And I don't think there's any more quintessential food in America than the hamburger. So we have a question here for you, Zane, about what makes perfect burger and how do you compete? And not only are there, the thing that gets me about Dearborn is I cannot eat all the hamburgers that are being sold in Dearborn now. There's so many different companies that are selling these, loaded burgers, really distinctive kind of burgers. And I'm a fan of Brome, but it's for you, the competition is incredibly fierce. So what makes the perfect burger and how do you handle the competition?
Okay, so the burger obviously has many components and a bunch of different variations you could do with it. You want to break those down first off and make sure that each component is serving the right use in the burger. So for instance, your bun, obviously it's got to be fresh, it's got to be soft as well, and you got to toast it on the flat top or whatever instrument you're using to toast. It's got to have a nice buttered toast on one end of it. The patty needs to be seared off really well, where you have that Maillard effect on the top, where it's not a poached, I don't want to say poached, but you want to build a nice crust on the outside of the patty. That's another very important element. Obviously, you got to make sure it's seasoned well and do a very simple seasoning. I wouldn't go really outside the box with the garlic and the onion and, you know, all the different powders. Just keep it very simple. I like using cracked pepper. It kind of brings out the flavor a little bit more. And then just making sure your vegetables are fresh. I like my onions sliced thin because you don't want a really pungent flavor of onion, you know, hitting your mouth or your palate. And then the sauce, obviously, you want to balance it out with a little bit of sweetness and acidity. So it's just all the components together. You got to make sure they marry well together. And you could go with the toppings as unique and diverse as you want it to be. You could influence different cuisines, or you could just do your average, you know, just all American burger with the cheese, lettuce, tomato, onions, and take it from there. But just making sure the execution end of each component is done right is what I would say is most important.
Well, I think that the way it's like the three of you are very much in alignment with the way you talk. It's the fresh ingredients, the quality, the thought, the care that you put into the work you do, and also meeting the customer, like, you know, thinking about what the customer wants, letting the customer help you get to that finished product too, you know. So I want to thank all of you for coming. I mean, I want to thank the audience for joining us. This has been so interesting for me. You know, I really appreciate the work that the three of you do and your partners do, bringing all this innovation to Dearborn. I think it was Ali who said the community had been coming here for a long time. Yeah, Arabs have lived in Dearborn from before the city was incorporated as a city. And some of the first Arab restaurants in the South End just fed workers, you know, who worked in the factory. But Arabic food is a part of the history of the city. There's no way to get around it, and it's definitely a part of the future of the city. And it's spread from just being something that used to exist in the south end of Dearborn to being something that you can find all over the metro area, even in Ann Arbor. I'm happy to look for a Brome opening in Ann Arbor soon. I hope that a King's Bakery and an AlType Restaurant opens in Ann Arbor soon as well. You can tell where I live. But I want to thank the three of you for joining us here tonight. I really appreciate it. I feel like we've learned so much about your work, and we look forward to being able to join you face to face in your restaurants very soon. And, you know, and hopefully we'll check in with all of you during Ramadan as well. And I want to encourage everybody in the audience to do so. So thank you everybody for joining us. This is the Halal Metropolis team. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Thanks,
Thanks for having
Sally.
us, Sally.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks, guys.